welcome to Song Lovers 21.5.
Yes.
Which I think means it's the 5th week.
The 5th
I
week
came
of
up
the
with
new
a system,
year.
I should know this.
I know. Yeah, and the numbers keep seeming to come quicker and quicker and quicker. It's like, my goodness.
They sure do.
Have we already done 5 of these for this year?
This is the 5th for this
Evidently.
year. So we have 4 fun and interesting hymns and some favorites and one rather unknown.
Yes.
And then one from the Hymnal 1940, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So the first is number 379 in Hymnal 1982. That is God is Love, Let Heaven Adore Him. And I love this hymn. This is one of my personal favorites, one of my 200 personal favorites. So the text is by a gentleman by the name of Timothy Rees. He was born in Wales, ordained an Anglican deacon in 1897. He was a curate before becoming chaplain and lecturer at St. Michael's College. He joined the Community of the Resurrection in Muirfield in Yorkshire in 1906, which was an Anglican group that worked on social problems. Rees went on missions in New Zealand, Canada, and Ceylon. He was a chaplain during World War I and became bishop of, that's one of those Welsh words
Yes,
that I think you say Clondalf.
Yes.
I think that's what it is. In 1931. This is one of 7 texts of his found in his papers after his death, and it's one of 2 hymns which were sung at his funeral.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the tune, I love this tune. This is Abbots Lee, Cyril Taylor. He was the son of an Anglican vicar. He was ordained a deacon in 1931 and a priest in 1932. He served parishes and was canon and precentor.
I thought it was presenter,
I should look these
but
things
I'm not
up.
sure.
At Bristol Cathedral, before going to work for the BBC from 1939 to 1953. He later served more parishes as a vicar and choir director before he became the canon and precentor at Salisbury Cathedral.
How about that?
This is the first hymn tune to be popularized by the radio.
I think this is such an interesting story.
It's a fascinating story. So this was during World War II. It was written in the spring of 1941, so England was full-fledged against those Nazis.
Yep.
And the famous text, it was glorious things as thee are spoken.
Yes.
And it was with Austria. And of course that's a Nazi anthem, so they thought we can't do this. So Mr. Taylor wrote another tune. And it became a really, really popular tune. The BBC Home Service, Lift Up Your Hearts, used it in an orchestral version before and after the broadcast. And that curmudgeon, Eric Routley, an amazing hymn studier, musicologist guy,
yes.
has a great tune. A great quote. It's the example of a hymn tune taught to the whole of Britain through broadcasting. I like this. It's secret, which gives it a sort of timeless authority that makes one feel as soon as one has heard it, that one knew it all one's life. Comes from the fact that its composer remembered what it was like to be in a pew singing. How many composers think about that? I don't think many anymore.
They do. Nope.
The next one we're going to study, that composer did too.
Yes.
Thought about what it's right. Yeah.
But the third one, I'm not so sure.
Not so sure.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So we're going to sing this. There's only one problem I have with the tune, and that's the very, very end.
Yes.
When it comes down. Should be here.
Right,
But
and everybody sings it differently. They don't get that skip.
That's what people do.
Right, which is wrong.
Jean won't do that.
No, I won't do that. The other reason why we chose this is because it's about God is love, and it's Valentine's Day Sunday, so we thought how appropriate.
There you are.
Yeah.
There you are.
I don't know, do you want to do all 3, or do you just want to do 1 and 3?
You know I love this hymn.
Well, let's do all 3 then, by golly.
By golly.
We'll do all 3.
Sing before him and exalt
so moving right along, our next one is another one of my 300,000 favorites.
And a truly great
first.
hymn also.
Oh, it's a wonderful hymn. This hymn is a perfect vocalese. It's written by Howells. Some of his music is tough, but this hymn is just like singing a vocalese. Anyway, it's 665 in your hymnal, 1982, so you can sing along. This happens to be a unison hymn, but it's not really too high for the basses. One
about
note
middle
maybe.
C, pops up to a D.
Yeah, only once. Anyways, text was written by a gentleman named Robert Bridges, English, son of a wealthy squire. He wanted to practice medicine until about 40, and then he decided to write poetry. So he served in several London hospitals and had to retire early because of ill health. He probably caught a few things.
Probably.
Anyway, he retired to the Berkshire village of Yattendon, and his work with the village church choir led him to an interest in hymnody and to the publication of the Yattendon Hymnal of 1899.
Again, another hymnal. If you happen to have a spare Yattendon
Really?
hymnal sitting around, don't know what to do with it, bring it here.
Anyway, in 1913, he was named the poet laureate. And his most famous work, or his magnum opus, is called The Testament of Beauty. So this is a free version of a hymn by Joachim Neander. Bridges didn't really translate German hymns, he just kind of free wrote them. So it's a beautiful text.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll go on to the tune. As I said, this is by our friend Herbert Howells. Many of us know of him because we have sung many of his Mags and Dunks at Evensong. So he's English, obviously. He's professor of composition at the Royal College of Music in London, which is not a bad post to have.
No.
He was there for over 50 years. He succeeded none other than Gustav Holst as the director of music at St. Paul's Girls' School in London. He was also president of the Royal College of Organists and the Plain Song Medieval Society, master of the Worshipful Company of Musicians.
These British people have all sorts of really cool organizations.
Yeah.
It's like belonging to a special. I would love to be a member of the Master of the Worshipful Company of Musicians. Wouldn't that be great?
Exactly. Howells wrote this tune in 1930 because the director of music of Charterhouse School requested that he do this. And so while he was at the breakfast table one day reading his mail, he just tossed off this tune. How many of us do that? Nobody. And he named it for his son, who died in childhood. His son died at age 9, I think it was 9 or 10, of pneumonia.
Yeah.
And he also wrote his famous Requiem after his son died, and he kind of worked through his grief and acceptance through that piece. It's a gorgeous piece. We've done the first movement, choir people out there. So anyway.
So a testament to his musicianship, if he sat there at breakfast opening his mail and scribbled out this tune, such a beautiful tune. Like you say, a lot of stepwise motion, so it's easy to sing, it's easy to learn. And as far as the basses hitting a high D, it's not a problem in this because he approaches it well.
Yes.
He knows enough about the voice to know that you don't take a leap up from way down at the bottom. You get it close. I mean, he's a fourth away in one
He's a
spot.
fourth.
In both times, he's
Yeah.
a fourth away from that D. But each time, he's approached it in such a good way that it's not too bad of a problem. What verses?
Well, I don't know what verses. 1, 3, and 5?
1, 3, and 5 it is.
Okay. All right, what's next, Cliff?
We're back for more fun and games.
Little
This
break there.
is from the Wonder, Love, and Praise, also
Yep.
known as the Green Book. This is number 807, Put Down Your Nets and Follow Me. It's an interesting little hymn. It was written by Janine Applegate, who was born in Seattle. She graduated from Linfield College in Oregon in '70 with a degree in philosophy. Who gets a degree in philosophy?
Not too many people
Not too
anymore
many.
because there's not much future in.
No, it's like a degree in
Philosophy.
English literature or something.
Unfortunately,
I
you know, it shouldn't be,
You would
but
anyway.
it is.
She is a published lyricist. She has works at Paraclete Press, at Trinitas, and the American Hymnal Association. Her texts often have a social conscience. She is director of parish education at Holy Rosary Parish in Portland, Oregon, and last time I checked, which was probably a year ago, she was still there.
Okay.
Yeah. This hymn, she focuses on the nature, cost, and reward of following our own calling to discipleship. It's all about Jesus calling the disciples.
Yes.
Yeah. The tune is named Dilo. It's written by a guy named Randall Giles, who's an American composer and ethnomusicologist. And an ethnomusicologist is somebody who studies world musics. Crazy people, ethnomusic. I had a professor in college who was an ethnomusicologist. He disappeared once, and he spent a year in Japan learning how to,
Oh,
I mean, this
yeah.
is before he was a professor. He spent a year in Japan learning how to play the shakuhachi, which is the bamboo flute.
Oh, heavens.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
a year.
How about
He
that?
came back, he had another position someplace, left again. He went to India and learned all the, what are those called with the drums?
Sitars.
No, it was the,
No?
it was the drums, and there's
Oh,
a
I
certain
don't know the
patterns
drums.
of rhythms.
Yeah.
Is it tapas? No, tapas is something you eat.
That's
Is
Spanish.
it ragas?
I have no idea.
But he's been a year. Obviously I didn't, or I know what the heck I'm talking about.
Well, you know, it's interesting because a classmate of mine in high school married an ethnomusicologist, and they've gone all over the place doing his stuff. And
Yeah, it's
they have all kinds of
fascinating.
weird instruments hanging in their house.
Yeah, it's just fascinating stuff. So this tune was written in collaboration with Miss Applegate, and it was named for the street of Giles' childhood home in West Lynn, Oregon.
How about that?
Yeah. So it's an odd little tune, and
odd little
it's sort of like a Renaissance dance tune, but with modern flair to it. So
This is one of these hymns, I'll have to say, that I like the tune by itself, and I like the text by itself, but I'm not sure the two are married properly.
right,
You know,
it doesn't seem to give it the weight that this text needs.
Exactly. The text needs more weight than the tune is there. But whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is. How many verses would you like?
Well, let's do 3. So we'll do 1, 3, and 5.
1, 3, and 5 it is.
Put down your nets and follow me, our Lord and Master said, and so they followed willingly, not knowing Our final hymn today we are taking from the old Hymnal 1940.
1940.
Yay, 1940. Anyway, so this is hymn number 549 from Hymnal 1940. The Son of God goes forth to war. We know why this isn't in 82.
Yeah.
It's too, what do I want to say?
Militaristic.
Militaristic, thank you.
You know
Anyway.
what I don't understand about that?
What?
This is another aside. We've taken out hymns like this.
Uh-huh.
We've taken out Onward Christian Soldiers.
Yeah.
Although I think that one might be in
That
there.
one's still in there.
Stand Up for Jesus is still in there. You soldiers of the cross. And we say they're too military, but what's one of the favorite hymns? Lift High the Cross.
Exactly, Lift High the
That
Cross.
has military imagery all over it.
Very
What's the
military.
matter with people?
I don't know.
Anyway.
The text was written by an English guy, Reginald Heber. He was rector of his family's parish in Shropshire, and then he became, I can't pronounce this, prebendary
Yeah, that one I know. Yeah, what I know, yeah.
of St. Asaph. He was appointed the Bishop of Calcutta. So he had all of India under his realm, and this was in 1823. And he established the Bishop's College in Calcutta. Unfortunately, he died suddenly while he was swimming in a pool
Yeah.
in South India. Ooh, I wonder if a little snaky thing or something. caught
Oh,
him.
I never thought that. I just thought maybe he was a bad swimmer.
Well, that too. Anyway, he projected a collection of hymns based on the requirements of the Christian year, connected with the epistles and gospels for each Sunday and for feast days. So, he solicited contributions from several poets, and after his death, his widow published the collection. So 9 of his hymns appeared. Now the tune is called All Saints New, written by a gentleman by the name of Henry S. Cutler. He is an American. born
And
in
just wait for
Boston.
this story. This is a great story.
I know. He studied in the U.S., then he went to Germany, and then he visited England. He loved male choirs. So when he heard these, he established it in the Episcopal Church in the United States. He brought back that men and boys choir kind of thing. He became the organist at Grace Church in Boston, and then he started his vision of male choirs at the Church of the Advent in Boston, which is still quite a well-renowned church with a good program. And his choir, which he began in 1855, we think is the first one that was vested in the United States. They didn't wear vestments before then, but
Right.
he was the one that introduced it, probably because he'd seen it in England.
Exactly.
And, became interested in it and thought, well, why not? The clergy are vested, let's vest the choir.
Why would we not do this?
Exactly. So he then moved to Trinity Parish in New York, and he's kicked women out of the choir in 1858.
That was a bit of a controversy.
And a year later, he introduced a vested choir the week before the Prince of Wales was to visit. And somehow this became quite controversial, because during the second lesson, there were 2 gunshots heard, and a musket ball fell into the pews.
Love that.
He was let go from his job in 1865 because he wasn't doing his job. Wonder if he fired the musket. So anyway, he went on to serve other churches in New York City, Brooklyn, Providence, Philadelphia, and Troy, New York. This tune was originally paired with his text, so it was written for each other. It has the quality of a processional, which matches Cutler's love of the English choirs and processions. And Paul Westermeyer says, it's delicious irony as it portrays a different kind of king who walked a lowly way. So this is the mighty king.
Yeah.
Not the lowly king. And I want to say an aside about the hymnal 1940 and this hymn. This hymn is written very much like if you were a music major and you were studying your first year theory class, it would be based on the Bach principles of writing a chorale tune.
The part leading.
The part leading, exactly. And you know how you develop the harmonies. Since I grew up on this, I learned all of these hymns, and so this sound was so familiar to me. I never took a theory lesson in my life. I had no idea what theory even was when I became a music major, and everybody was like, oh my God, you're gonna have such a terrible time with it because you don't know anything. And when our professor first started doing these chords, I'm going, well, I know what that is. Oh, okay, that's what that's called. Well, I'll be darned, I've heard that before. I understand that progression. So the whole hymnal 1940 taught me music theory.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And in some ways, although I love many, many, many of the hymns in the 82, we've kind of sacrificed that. I wouldn't say that you could grow up on hymn 82 and learn that language as well.
You'd have to
as
have a
1940.
music director who could choose the right
Exactly.
settings and the right four-part voice leading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my thing.
What verses?
Let's do 1, 2, and 4.
1, 2, and 4 with the Amen at the end.
Yes, of course, because that's very important.
It is.
The Son of God goes forth to war, a kingly crown to gain. His blood banner streams afar, who follows in his train? Who best can drink his cup of woe, triumphant over pain? Who patient bears his cross below, he follows in his train. The martyr first, whose eagle eye could pierce beyond the grave, who saw his master in the sky and called on him to save, like him with pardon on his tongue, amidst of mortal pain. He prayed for them that did the wrong, who follows in his train. A noble army, men and boys, the matron and the maid, around the Saviour's throne rejoice, in robes of light arrayed. They climb the steep ascent of heaven through peril, toil, and pain. O God, to us may grace begin, to follow in their train. Amen. All the hymns in 1940 ended in Amen.
Every one of them.
And that's where I learned the 4-1 chord. Amen chord.
The plagal cadence.
Exactly.
Thank you again for joining us. We're having too much fun. I think I say that. Ooh, the heat just came on.
Oh,
I think I say that every time, but it's true.
It is
So,
true. I hope you all are enjoying it and having fun with us too, learning a little bit, even singing along.
Even singing along, we hope.
Yeah. God be with you. God be with you. God be with you till we meet again. By his counsels guide uphold you, with his sheep securely fold you. God be with you. God be with you. God be with you till we meet again.
Peace.
God's peace, everyone.